Welcome to another episode of Mr. Plumb's Thoughts. Today we're going to dive into one of the longest running questions among Latter-day Saints, which is, where did the Book of Mormon actually take place? Now, the church has not given us an official map or endorsed any specific model, but we do believe that prophets and apostles speak the words of the Lord when they exercise their callings. And one of those apostles, named Orson Pratt, not only gave us a detailed model in a publication he made back in the 1830s, but he was also a close friend and confidant of Joseph Smith. And Joseph Smith himself, even though we don't have any direct words from Joseph Smith on where the events might have taken place, we do have an account, a record that he enthusiastically embraced the model that Pratt had laid out. So, think about that. Joseph Smith was instructed for 4 years by the angel Moroni before he ever even received the plates. So if anyone knew the geography, it was Moroni, right? Obviously, the person who buried the plates, he would have known exactly where everything took place. If Pratt's model carried Smith's endorsement, then it wasn't guesswork. It was revelation handed down through Moroni himself. So let's walk through Pratt's model in detail. And as we do, I'll tie in some of the archaeological discoveries that support it. But I guess I should say first that the church has always kept a neutral stance. They've always said the Book of Mormon has happened somewhere in the ancient Americas, but neutral doesn't necessarily mean we're in the dark. And prophets and apostles have spoken, and Pratt's words do matter far more than I would argue the member-driven theories and speculation go. So Pratt's model is pretty bold and pretty all-encompassing. The entire Western Hemisphere was the stage, from their landing site in Chile to Camorra in New York. And Joseph Smith didn't just tolerate Pratt's teaching. As I mentioned, he embraced it pretty enthusiastically, which makes sense. Obviously, if Pratt had learned those details from Smith, then of course Smith would have supported them. And it does give Pratt's model prophetic weight that no other theory can really claim. So let's kind of go back to the beginning. Before they ever set foot in the New World, the Lehites, as I'll call them, built a ship in somewhere in Saudi Arabia, on the shores of Saudi Arabia. The Book of Mormon says they launched into a violent sea, or a sea, that had some pretty intense storms, which matches what we know about that region of the oceans in the Indian Sea. Archaeologists have actually identified sites in, I don't know if I pronounce this right, Oman, something like that, with the right timber and ore to construct such a ship. And the Indian Ocean currents, then, if you pull up a map of ocean currents, which are pretty fascinating to look at, you can see that the currents in the Indian Ocean would have carried their ship around the southern rim of the world, sweeping through the Antarctic circumpolar current, which then would have connected to the South Pacific current and would have finally pushed them up the Peru current straight to Chile. Which that's where Pratt placed their landing, near modern I don't know how to say it, Valparaiso or something like that. But right there in Chile, they have found a whole bunch of maritime artifacts. They found some ancient tools and some boat remnants that have been uncovered in recent years, making it a pretty good, plausible site. Could it be linked to the Lehites? I don't know. Scholars are obviously cautious. Scholars never want to admit anything that could confirm the Book of Mormon. But the timing and location does align with Pratt's model, so it's definitely something we need to consider. So after Lehi died and the Nephites separated from the Lamanites, Nephi's followers migrated north to the headwaters of the Amazon in Peru and Ecuador. Pratt identified this area as the city of Nephi. And in 2024, it might have been 2023. Anyway, in the last couple of years, LiDAR technology revealed a massive city, ancient city hidden in the Ecuadorian jungle. It's got roads and plazas and evidence of advanced planning that dates back over 2,000 years. And it's precisely where Pratt placed them. So there's a good indication that giant city could be the city of Nephi. Anyway, so Lamanite pressure grew, and Mosiah ended up leading a group further north, and they ended up settling around the Magdalena River in Colombia. And Pratt placed Zarahemla in this region. And the archaeological site of San Augustin is a pretty prime candidate for Zarahemla. It was a pretty major hub, central in its time, with religious monuments and artifacts that definitely match, the Book of Mormon era. So in the meantime, while the Nephites are migrating up on the western side of South America, the Mulekites, who had fled Jerusalem at the time of its destruction, just a few years after Lehi and his family, they landed north of Panama just in time to witness the collapse of the Jaredites in Mexico, who we associate with the Olmecs. And the descendants of the Mulekites eventually migrated southward a little bit and united with the Nephites at the northern edge of South America, in that Ecuadorian area. And so the Jaredites, they predate them all. According to Pratt, their civilization stretched widely across North and South America, but at the end they collapsed and shrunk down and ultimately met their demise in Mexico. So then the Book of Mormon goes forward a little bit. After they're united, the Nephites and the Mulekites unite under one banner just called the Nephites. And then in the 1st century BC, we have some Nephites who launched into the Pacific Ocean, becoming the cultures that we see across the Pacific Islands today. And then about 45 BC, Pratt said large groups of Nephites migrated into North America, particularly the Mississippi Valley. And archaeology confirms advanced mound building cultures like the Hopewells, and they flourished at precisely the time that the Book of Mormon claims that they went up there. And the earthworks, they've got artifacts and trade networks that all kind of match the kind of organized society that the Book of Mormon describes. And of course, the record then closes at Cumorah, which is in modern New York, the very place that Moroni led Joseph Smith to the plates that he had buried. And this ties the whole narrative together, not only geographically, but spiritually, with Moroni personally guiding Joseph to the exact spot that he himself buried the records. Now, archaeology, it doesn't prove scripture, but it can serve as a witness, and it's worth noting that no archaeological discovery that has come out since Pratt put that model out has, no discovery has disproved it or made it so that it couldn't be possible. In fact, all the discoveries that we keep on making it more and more plausible. Whether it's the maritime artifacts and whatnot found in Chile, or the LiDAR cities in Ecuador, or cultural hubs in Colombia. We've got the Olmec ruins in Mexico, or mound builders in Mississippi. There's even, we've got cultures in the Andes and whatnot. There's, all these cultures, they all line up pretty dang well with what the Book of Mormon says. So do they prove it beyond a doubt? No. But they do confirm over and over that Pratt's model, it fits reality. And revelation remains steady while archaeology, I would say, keeps slowly catching up. I should probably address the other models a little bit here, not necessarily go into detail about them, but you've got like heartland theories, which say everything took place up kind of around the Great Lakes of America. You've got the limited Mesoamerican theories that say everything took place basically in the Central America region. But here's the truth. Not one of those came from an apostle or a prophet. They were built by members who were leaning on their own reasoning without the mantle of revelation. And they're just looking at the evidence, and they thought the evidence led them in a different direction. But Satan uses these other theories. He crafts false models to stir up contention and weaken faith and deceive the saints. And tragically, some members have lost their testimonies when these alternate theories unravel. So it's pretty sad. And that's kind of the fruit of speculation too. Without inspiration, you really gotta, if you're gonna dive into speculation, you really gotta do it with the Holy Ghost as your constant companion, so you can be led into all truth. And by contrast with those other models, Pratt's model came from an apostle of the Lord, who we sustain as a prophet, seer, and revelator, and was embraced by Joseph Smith himself, and ultimately traces back to Moroni, and that's why it stands apart. So do we know where the Book of Mormon took place? Yes, we know enough. While, the church doesn't give us an official map, the Lord has already spoken through his servants. And Pratt's model is not speculation, it's revelation, supported by a growing body of archaeological, witnesses. So, and the Book of Mormon's greatest power is spiritual. The geography doesn't ultimately matter. The text itself brings us closer to Christ, which is the most important thing. But seeing how Pratt's inspired geography matches discovery after discovery, that only strengthens that witness, in my opinion. And I do believe the Americas were prepared by God as a stage for this sacred record, and to prepare the world for his return. So what do you think? Does Orson Pratt's model resonate with you the way it does with me? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to like and subscribe and share it with someone who might be curious about the Book of Mormon geography. Definitely thank you guys for watching, and thank God for guiding me into these understandings so that I can help bring them to you guys. So until next time, keep the faith, and remember, truth comes from prophets, not from speculation. See ya.